Today is Monday, uh, October the 6th at 5:14. I'm just recording this. I woke up about 20 minutes ago, and I was trying to force myself to remember because I'm like, I had a dream. I couldn't really fully recall, but this is what I do remember. Um, I was in a very tall building and on this floor, and I'm talking, I don't know how many feet up, like, I don't know, 20-story building or something like that. And I had some friends on the ground that um, they kind of were, it's like I could see them from the ground view. It reminded me of an old neighborhood I used to live in, apartment style. And they were kind of just, look like summer day. Kind of lounged out, pillow, leaned, on kind of laying on the ground. Some were sitting up. Some were, I don't know if they were like playing cards or just like kicking the time, like allowing the time to go by. Um, I felt like they were my friends. They knew me. They knew where I lived. I guess they were like outside of my building. I guess typical neighborhood, I suppose. Um, I was on, I won't say the top floor, but I was on a very high floor, and I don't know. I kept looking down at them. I'm not really sure if they were waiting on me or if, you know, I don't remember. I don't remember. But I do remember being on the top floor, and I want to say it was like an earthquake, or I know the ground or something begun to shake. Um, and things began to like sway, right? It was like a swing. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know if I found something to get into that was like kind of long and square. It wasn't really rubbery, but the shape of it would have allowed me to, like, when the building fell, it would have kind of protected things from falling onto me. So I got into it. Really skinny, long, rectangular, solid shape, if you will. I don't know how I was able to hold on to it without falling out on the sides because the sides were open. That's how I got into it, like stepped inside of it. Um, and I guess when the building fell, it just went down with the building, but kind of like cascaded downward. Um, and so somehow same dream, but it kind of switched to where I was now on the ground. But then when I looked up, the building was there. There was no, there was like everything was as if it was normal. And so I walked over to the friends. I was like, hey, did y'all see this? Um, they were like, what? See what? I'm like, you guys didn't just see what just happened. Like, I'm just kind of like in shock because like, how could you have missed that? There was just no way you didn't know, like couldn't have seen that this, would have just happened. And I don't know if they were just so fixated on like what they were doing. They were so just distracted, or they didn't hear it, they didn't see it, like, because I'm like, well, how else would I have been, down here? How did I, get down here? I didn't just walk. Like, I just literally came from the rubble. Mm-mm. And I looked back up, and it was as if it never happened. The building was completely in its original form. And I was like, I did not understand that at all. I actually explained to them what had happened. But I think it was interesting because if I'm not mistaken, the thing that I had got into was in my hand at this point. And I don't mean like me holding this big old structure that's taller than myself, but it was like a smaller figurine that was in my hand. I was like, I got into this, and and they're looking at it, and I'm just like, it just didn't make sense to them. It didn't. It just seemed like I was, loony, or like, hey, are you okay? Like, it's just, brush it off like, yeah, no, hadn't seen it. So, which made me look a little weird, but I was telling them this happened, and yeah, I was the only one that witnessed it. It was really odd. So I just wanted to record that in case I forgot. Um, I'll just pray on it. I'm not really sure what this signifies, just yet. So, but until then, guys, thank you always, so much for coming to the channel, to, for listening to all of the different dreams that the Lord gives me. And if you guys have any interpretations, as always, please leave it in the comments below. And until then, be blessed, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, guys, here I am back again trying to do an interpretation of the video about the tall building. Okay, and so I've been trying to put some pieces together, and I decided to ask ChatGPT just for more insight as to the symbolicness of the dream. Alrighty, and this is, I'm just gonna read off to you guys what it has given me. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with the tall building, spiritual position or perspective. Being high up in a very tall building often symbolizes elevated awareness, spiritual position, insight or revelation, responsibility, or separation from a crowd. I wasn't on the ground passing time. I was above observing. So it kind of just goes down the list as far as, identifying the friends on the ground and what that could have meant, the earthquake, the protective structure that I was in, that sort of thing. But what I want to read to you guys is more from the prophetic perspective. Alrighty. Excuse me. So, when people have dreams about collapsing buildings, shaking, and others that are not noticing, it can feel very end times, right? But the prophetic symbolism doesn't always mean literal global destruction. Often it represents the collapse of a system of trust, not necessarily the planet. So let's walk through this prophetic lens together. Number one, the tall building, a system, nation, or power. In prophetic symbolism, a tall building can represent a nation, a government system, economic power, religious institution, human pride, or high places. In scripture, high structures often symbolize human achievement and pride. Think of the book of Genesis and the Tower of Babel narrative, where humanity built upward in self-exaltation. A 20-story building is a man-made strength. It represents what? Stability that people trust. If viewed prophetically, the building could symbolize a country that appears stable, an economic system people rely on, a religious structure, or even a global system. Number two, the earthquake. God shaking what can be shaken. In this imagery, earthquake often means divine intervention, exposure, judgment on systems, structural collapse. The shaking doesn't always mean annihilation. It often means purification. So there's a strong parallel in the book of Hebrews chapter 12, 26 to 27, where it speaks of God shaking heaven and earth so that what cannot be shaken remains. So prophetically, shaking equals separation of what is real from what is illusion. Okay. Number 3, the collapse that didn't happen. ChatGPT stated that this part was profound. It stated that I experienced a total collapse, while my friends experienced nothing. And it suggests that the collapse is already happening spiritually before it manifests physically. In prophetic patterns throughout the book of Revelation, events unfold in the spiritual realm before they are fully realized in the natural world. So, with that, it may symbolize a country declining morally when citizens feel comfortable, economic instability beneath the surface of normalcy, institutional decay, people ignore, spiritual corruption masked by routine life. The friends that were lounging, right, equals people absorbed in normal life where foundations weaken. Number 4, the protective container, ark symbolism. The long rectangular structure resembles an ark. In the book of Genesis, account of Noah, the ark preserved the righteous while judgment came. But nothing, but notice something, I'm sorry. But notice something. I didn't escape the fall. I went through it, protected, which is important. Prophetically, this suggests not removal from crisis, but preservation within the crisis, okay? Which aligns with patterns seen in the book of Exodus, where the plagues hit Egypt, but Israel was shielded within the same land, okay? Number 5, end time interpretation, which they also classify as a balanced view. If viewed as end time symbolism, the building equals global system, economic, political, religious. The shaking equals collapse of man-made security. The friends unaware equals spiritual blindness. Your survival, which was mine within the dream, equals remnant protection. The building restored equals illusion of stability before final exposure. Many prophetic voices describe a period where systems appear stable outwardly, but are internally compromised. Alrighty, so dreams about collapse do not automatically mean the end of the world. They often mean the end of an era. Alrighty, coming to a close here. Number 6, collapse of a country. If applied to a nation, the symbolism could reflect economic vulnerability, moral decline, institutional distrust, political instability masked by entertainment and distraction. The fact that my friends were casually passing time may reflect how modern culture remains absorbed in comfort while deeper instability grows. But prophecy about countries, of course, is a serious territory. Historically, many believers in many generations thought that their era was the final collapse. Most were responding to turbulence. Alrighty. So, is this about global system or is it about maybe a personal world shifting? So, another prophetic layer could be an internal kingdom shift. Sometimes, quote unquote, end time dreams are actually, it could be end of an older, like identity, the collapse of an eternal system, and the fall of false security. So, of course, by me being up high and then through the collapse and then down to ground level, of course, there's symbolism where it's humbling, it repositions, it resets, and it's a new phase. So that was more for a more personal outlook. And so the importance of this discernment, let's say within true prophetic revelation, is that it produces sobriety and not panic, produces preparation and not paranoia, produces prayer and not fear. So we have to ask ourselves, is this calling us to prepare spiritually? Is it calling to teach or detach rather from systems that maybe we overtrust? Is this about, awakening or just, and not destruction? There's a lot of different perspectives. I wanted to get more clarity because the dream was so short, very vivid, and I couldn't totally put all the pieces together. And so I thought to, kind of play around with interpretations and to see, what it said about the keywords in objects that were found within the dream. And so I just came on to share that, with you guys. So hopefully you can get a clear perspective of what the dream may have meant, in the ballpark of politics, economics, and spiritual decline, which I do believe is exactly what it signified. And so, yeah, guys. So until the next time, take care.